Hello, everybody. My name is Vaughn Apochi, and I'm going to be talking about the Nigerian macroeconomic growth that is being bandied around by the present day government and microeconomic growth as it's supposed to be. And of course, the propaganda and the thin line that separates these two things. So we need to understand and I need to expose the truth to you. This video will expose a whole lot to you. You stay patient, learn, and understand. Create an open mind. The bottom line is not to criticize any government, but to expose the truth to you so that you can judge yourself. So, and also for all of those who want to become president in Nigeria, you can learn a lot from this so that you can understand ways that you can navigate the economy of Nigeria. Today, Nigeria is banding around an increase in macroeconomic growth. Now, let me explain this to you. Macroeconomy is simply defined by the total nation's economic output that, of course, increases job, employment, growth in the country's income, which, of course, Tinubu today is portraying as the increase in the Nigerian foreign reserve that has hit above 50 billion for the first time in a long time, right? Now, relax. This is supposed to translate into increase in job, employment, improvement in industries and all of that. But of course, certain international economists would say that every organization or country that has increase in economic growth, or where there is economic growth in its sense, there should be social development. But it's only in Nigeria or some part of Africa that you see the government say there is economic growth, but the social development part of that growth is not seen. Microeconomic talks about the individual wealth, the individual ability to manufacture, to expand his own business. So once there is economic growth, the macroeconomic growth, it definitely should translate into microeconomic growth. But the big question I would ask you today, is it true that there is more job in Nigeria today? Is it true that individuals can actually expand their own businesses today? Individuals can grow their enterprises today? Individuals have better lives today? Of course, you know it's no. But however, the international communities like the IMF, the World Bank are praising Nigeria for all of this. I'll break it down in simple terms. Every country should have three accounts. One is the current account, the second is the capital account, and the third one is the foreign reserve. Nigeria's foreign reserve has hit over 50 billion, right? And that's been celebrated. However, Nigeria's foreign capital account is not experiencing so much influx of income as it's supposed to be. Now, what the foreign reserve shows is that Nigeria has high borrowing power. Where is that money coming from? I will expose that to you also. Then your current account, which is a third account, it's characterized by your import and export. That is why economists will always let you know that your import should be less than your export so that you have a positive balance of trade. So if you're importing $1 billion worth of things into your country, you should be able to export 1 billion plus things out of your country so that when the balance of trade comes, there should be surplus, not deficit. So you make profits. But in Nigeria today, we virtually import everything we consume and we export little. Why do we export little? Because our microeconomic growth is stagnated. But you are celebrating a macro, which is the bigger one, economic growth, but your microeconomic growth is stagnated. How does that mathematically, economically balance anything? There is no theory on it. It's only in Nigeria that new economic theories are created. Now, every country that develops should first start with small-scale, medium enterprises. Now, no country on earth that is thinking right will not subsidize power or energy. Energy is the mitochondria, the powerhouse of every economic growth. And how can any economy grow when the individual are not producing? We have loads of talent in Nigeria. Go to Aba today and see the wonderful clothes that they made, the bed sheets, the shoes, the little accessories, a lot. These are exportable materials. But where's the road to market, road to international market for these geniuses in the southeastern part of Nigeria? Go to the northern part of Nigeria and see what they do with handcraft. These are just small level of industrialization. Nigerian government today, the Tinubu government keeps saying, oh, you have to be patient because even China took them 40 years to become the China of today. It took Dubai a long time to become the Dubai of today. But are you following the roadmap of these countries? China did not float their currency, did not depreciate their currency when they started. China first tackled corruption. They tackled corruption to the core. Then second, they started building road infrastructure. They started developing microeconomic growth. They started building individuals. They started building institutions, rule of law. Then the moment they got that right, then once manufacturing has increased, China had the potential to export to the entire world. They floated their currency. They depreciated the Chinese currency. What does that tell you? It means if I produce a medicine in China and you produce the same medicine in America, because my currency has been depreciated, let's give example, with $1, you can purchase 10 of that same medicine with the same quality. In America, you can only use $1 to purchase one. So the question is, where would you go to buy that medicine? Of course, you will go to China. That is what depreciation of your currency does. That's what happens when you depreciate your currency. So that when you bring the currency that benchmarks all currency in the world to my country, you will buy more products than when you take it to any other country that does not depreciate their currency. How do you then depreciate the Nigerian naira when you have nothing to export? When you do not have industries? when you do not have road to market, where there's insecurity, agricultural produce that are not even elastic product, because you have two types of product commodities, elastic commodities and inelastic commodities. These are just price elasticity. What it means is, if I produce cocoa, there is a conventional price of cocoa. There's a static price of cocoa, static price of crude oil, static price of rubber. Raw materials are usually inelastic products. You cannot just increase the prices at will. The prices are governed by global market. But of course, if I produce a Chanel bag, if I produce a Louis Vuitton, if I produce a chocolate and I call it the Von chocolate, I can create any price. I can create quality, premiumness of my product. I can tell you my product sells for $3. I can say it sells for $4 tomorrow. I can say there is a premiumness in my product. But when you take things from the earth and you sell it directly, it's inelastic. You cannot just manipulate the prices. And that's what Nigerian suffers for, because everything that we sell are inelastic. So back to what I was saying. So you see the farmers even grow crops, cash crops that are supposed to be inelastic, however, at least sell and bring funds. But there's insecurity. Farmers cannot go to the markets. All right? And you see, it is so devastating that we just bandied macroeconomic growth without understanding the nitty-gritty. Where did all these monies come from? Taxation of the poor people. True. From your tariffs, your bank taxes, even the corporate organization, the taxes that they pay, your VAT increase, that's where all those monies come from. That's why they'll tell you there's increase in XYZ funds from this department and that department today. And of course, we do not pay for oil subsidy anymore. So all of that money goes into the coffers of the governments. Then, of course, we also do not wedge the naira anymore. So we floated the naira. So which means the billions that we're using before to subsidize the naira so as to reduce the dollar and naira comparison has been taken off. And where does that money go? Foreign reserve. Now, what does your government come to tell you? We have more foreign reserve today. Lazy, cheap economics. That's not what you're supposed to do. The first thing you're supposed to do as a leader, for any of you who will become the president in 2027, listen. Let me tell you, forget about the foreign powers that are the invisible powers or whatever you want to call it that you think are running the show in Nigeria. First thing, tackle corruption headlong. No foreign body would see you tackling corruption and fight against you, even if the best you can do is do not cut foreign organizations out. Because one thing the big powers don't like is when there is no win-win game for them. So the first thing you must always understand is this is a game where everybody has to win. So without wasting so much time, you see that these guys are not serious because they do not even know how to navigate the economy. They don't even know what to do with, one, you're mopping money out of tax, you're mopping money out of the currency that you're supposed to use to wage in the naira to improve. See, when you subsidize your currency, right, it reduces the rate at which foreign currency competes with your currency, and you do that temporarily, right? And when you're doing that, you are encouraging internal development, IT. You're getting more IT exports. You're getting more individuals developing your small-scale business, especially things you cannot manufacture in your country. They're getting it easy. They're buying things, tools, things to create their own small-scale industry. And once that is done, and you understand that your country has now the potential to manufacture elastic product, then you can now start encouraging exports. Now, you see Tinubu today is banditing, macroeconomic stability and all of that. But let me tell you something that is very key. Macroeconomic stability is important, but you must understand that it is not the same as economic prosperity. Because if it does not trickle down to become microeconomic growth, then there is nothing you've achieved. One, you have rising foreign reserve. You're happy about it. You've lowered fiscal deficits. Very good. And increase in capital inflows. Fantastic. All these are headlines. You've just said, you created statistics just to benefit your government, but they mean little when the current account remains weak, your domestic production is low, unemployment is high, and housing purchasing power in your country collapses. And that's what Nigeria is experiencing today. Macroeconomic growth is supposed to be the opposite of that. Increase employment, increase expansion, not just only your foreign reserve. You can increase your NPR. So, for instance, high NPR, which is money policy rate that CBN rakes out every month, that determines inflation and determines interest rates for special investment bond, money market, treasury bills, EFTs and the likes, right? Now, once you increase your NPR, high NPR, which is high interest rate, like I said, it can attract investment. It can attract foreign portfolio investment. Investors will come in, bonds will increase, treasury bills, strengthening all of that. Capital, account will be good. However, hot money is not development, because I'm bringing my money to Nigeria to invest in one of your, bonds, and I'm leaving it for a year. So I'll give you a typical analysis that I did for some of my friends here in America. I said, if you have $1 million and you pull $1 million into Nigeria, say money market, treasury bills, and one of those is performing at 16% to 20%, right? Let's just be very modest about this. And you invest the same $1 million in America that is performing at 3.5 to 4.5. Let's say, okay, give you 6% or 7% for a very aggressive investment in America. The difference will be after a year, you would make, let's put it in maximum, $600,000 US dollars on your 1 million. I mean, $60,000 on your 1 million. But in Nigeria, you would make $200,000 on your $1 million. So which country will you put your $1 million? Of course, you put it in Africa, Nigeria. And that's what big investors are doing. And what do? They pull their money back to their own country. That's what we call hot money, hot investment. It does not translate into manufacturing, SME expansion. It does not translate into technology, export, agriculture. It does not. Infrastructure remains the same, and your productive FDI does not, and it cannot create jobs and transfer into knowledge or, development. So that's why we're saying that all of these things are good for you to mop in funds from foreign countries and all of that, but they do not help to improve your economy. So when you're talking about China, oh, China got it right, China did not do this, that, but China did not float their currency at the beginning. China did not. They did not rely on foreign capital. The first thing China did was factories. They started building factories. They improved their export capacity. They created industrial parks, logistic network, road. That's what I love about Peter Obi. One of the key things he did in Anambra State was that road network when he was a governor. He was building urban rural roads so that there will be road to market. You don't just rush to liberalize your currency. You improve on industrialization and you increase your financial outcome first. Nigeria, look at what we're doing today. Nigeria appears to be following the textbook of the IMF. Oh, but let me let you know something. World Bank adjustment model does not work for all countries. Floating the currency, removing subsidies, raise interest rates, and hope that the market itself will correct itself. It's the worst type of economy I've ever seen in my life. That's poor economic policy, and that's what Tinubu did. That's a lazy man economy, just following the textbook without understanding your comparative advantages and looking at your local economy and seeing how you can then improve your microeconomy. Because all of these things will look big, because it's not all one size fits all. Seriously, it's not. And it will crash eventually. Because Tinubu is telling you to be patient. Tinubu is going into a trajectory where he will crash eventually at the end of the day. I bet you, mark my word. If Tinubu wins the next 2027 election, Nigeria is doomed. In the sense that because he's running lazy man economy. A country that imports more than what it consumes cannot strengthen its currency through floating your naira monetary policies alone. Listen, you strengthen a country's currency by one, producing. First of all, that's why Peter Obi always say from consumption to production. Exporting. Attracting productive investment, not just investment of those that want to bring their funds because your interest rate is high and they look their funds out once at the end of the investment cycle. No, you create jobs. How do you create jobs? Private-public partnership, level playing field, where individuals can actually, and see, this thing will start when you start fighting corruption, eliminating from yourself, from your circle. Then, of course, after doing that, you also improve the rule of law, strengthen institutions irrespective of whose office is God, whether it will affect you negatively or not. Do the right thing, eventually the rule of law will affect you positively anyway. And people cannot have decent standard of living. So foreign reserve don't feed the people. Production does. So that's why I brought this to you, to expose the Tinubu government and let you know that macroeconomic growth, as they define, is not the way forward. You must subsidize energy. You must subsidize your currency for a time being. When production increases, microeconomy improves, then you can float your currency to create stability. Then you'll be surprised at the end of the day, your currency will even stand the test of time. Then you will know that the true value of the naira is not even 1,300 naira to a dollar. You'll be shocked because then your current account was have balanced out. Your foreign direct investment was have improved your capital account. Then of course your foreign reserve will deplete a little bit, but to swell up back again. And then you balance the thin line between macroeconomic growth and microeconomic growth. Then you fulfill the standard of economics that says when there's economic growth, there is social development. My name is Von Apochi. I studied a little bit of economics, international economics, when I was doing a master's in the University of Lagos. That's where my knowledge comes from. But I'm a medical practitioner and I'm a geneticist. I'm a functional medicine practitioner. And I'm very interested in resolving sickle cell crisis and sickle cell disease. That's where my research is fundamentally based on right now, and a couple of other things. Thank you, and God bless you. Have a blessed Nigeria.